Hey everybody, I'm Ryan Cardinal, the creator of the comic book series called Caius, a story of blood and stone, which is now on INDIEGOGO and in demand. You can find me here, there, and everywhere by looking for the username at the Ryan Cardinal, so feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to all my social media. Thanks! Hey everybody, and welcome to the channel. So, I want to bring this up. Now, this is an article from ICV2. This got made in January 3rd, 2019, so this has been around for a while. But when this came up, this made the rounds. Everybody that was in comic books, retailer, Comicsgate, anyone who saw this, it caught their attention. And it caught my attention too. And Phil Boyle of Coliseum Comics, he goes into great detail here as to problems being a brick and mortar shop these days, especially selling comic books. So let's go down here. Phil Boyle, whose Coliseum Comics chain has the largest comics and games retailer in the Southeast, has shared his thoughts on what he sees to be the top 8 problems in the comic book business, and his solutions and what publishers can do. So we're just going to go down, we're going to scroll through this quickly. I'm not going to read the entire article, but I will have the article linked below in the description if you want to check it out. So, number 1 here, the problem: 90% of the books coming off the stands at the end of their shelf life have zero value as back issues. This is massive. The fact that he puts this number 1 is, it can't be over or understated. It just has to be stated that this is fact now. And the other key thing is right here. Zero value. These books already have barely any value on the shelf. This is something that needs to be stressed. After its shelf life, it has no value as a back issue, which means it also barely has any value on the shelf. Why is that? Well, anybody who's been paying attention to comic books in the past, couple of years, they know that the quality of the stories have gone down. Things have shifted and focused to such a way where comic books are almost no longer as enjoyable to read. This is why there's a big push on indie comics right now. The big 2 have been dropped off. Like, think about this. Marvel Comics. Like, the house that Stan and Jack built. The biggest movie blockbusters of all time. And none of that is affecting comic books. There's no push. There's no bump. There is something going on. Like, you almost cannot have something as massive as that and not have a ripple effect. But there is no ripple effect. You have Spider-Man, the Avengers, biggest movies of all time, consecutively for the past 10 years. Comic book sales are going down. And it's not because kids are not interested in this. Trust me. Like, anytime I'm in a comic book shop and there's young kids and they come in, they're like, oh, cool, Iron Man. And they want the Iron Man that they saw on the movie. They want the Spider-Man that they see in the movie. When they go to the shelves, it's story arcs that they don't know. I talked about this with friends of mine and how the big 2 are pretty much impenetrable because of the stories that they created. There's so much backlog, there's so much lore, there's all this kind of stuff that we all love. But as somebody new trying to come in, it's a brick wall. And it's very, very difficult to get into. And story quality has gone down because, as he says here, as soon as the shelf life is done, there is no value as a back issue, which means there's almost no value while it's on the shelf. He talks about his solution, pretty much, if it doesn't work, get rid of it. There's no need to keep it around if it's not selling. Number 2, reboots. No surprise, but every jumping on point creates its wake of jumping off. And anybody who's read this knows exactly what I'm talking about. And one of the reasons I'm kind of bringing this up again, yes, this happened in January. Yes, it got covered a lot. But people have very short memories. So I want to bring this up because there's something in here that's super important that it got brought up. And when it got brought up, I was going to be like, okay, cool. Somebody else is going to touch on this because it's glaringly obvious that this is a key. This is a tool that can be made to help publishers, or not publishers, the brick and mortar retailers. But nobody touched on it, so I'm going to bring it up now. Let's see, abuse part of comic books, first issues. Yeah, if you keep making first issues, nothing special. Publishers can do special covers, issue to issue. Again, you keep making something special, it's just run of the mill. discounts, publishers can do problem, books without a market. This is kind of where Image falls in. Image is cranking out books left, right, and center. And I think in the next 2 years, they're going to see a massive drop off in the creative teams, because the creative teams they know that they can actually make money on an indie project. You go to Image, it's up to you. You know, you're your own campaign. You got to be out there. You got to be promoting it yourself. You got to be pushing it. You know, have your own social media presence, all this kind of stuff. But in the end, you can do all that yourself and pocket more money. You don't have to give Diamond a cut. You don't have to give Image the printing fee. You don't have to pay whatever else you have to pay. If you're going to do that, you might as well just do it on your own. And a lot of creators, especially indie creators, are starting to see what's capable with crowdfunding. You can have, well, I'll speak of myself, for example. I am an absolute nobody when it comes to crowdfunding or comic books, but I was still able to make almost $6,000 off of my #1 issue. Printing costs, all that kind of stuff that goes into it. Yeah, but still, I'm a nobody, and that's still a lot of money coming my way. If there's a team of well-known people, they're going to do much better than me. You know, I've seen a lot of first-time creators pull in $15, $20, $30, $40, and $50,000 because they're able to do the marketing. They're able to get in front of people. They're able to do this stuff. And if Image kind of brings nothing to the table, you're going to see a lot of creative teams drop out. And I think that's going to happen here. With books without a market, if Image can't sell it, guess what? It's not that the market doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist for them. But as a crowdfunding source, you're going to find your market. And it's going to be small, but it's going to be way more profitable. And you won't be left kind of holding the bag at the end of your 4-issue run, only be able to pay your team maybe a couple $100. So, Russian inconsistent scheduling. This is another area that crowdfunding will be able to kick in. If you have the time to make the comic book, people are willing to make the sacrifice of waiting for a good product. It's been shown time and time again. People are willing to wait and pay a higher price point. Because a lot of people in crowdfunding actually understand the concept of, hey, there's regular life, there's all this kind of stuff, and if you're trying to make this project into a reality, it takes time. And if you're trying to make it your best and you keep updating your people that have contributed, they understand. And that gets rid of the rush and inconsistent scheduling. Promo items, again, really, really good thing that he touched on this, because let's face it, if you get a little postcard or something like that with your comic book, do you really keep it? No, it goes in the garbage. But we're going to touch on the thing right here. His very last paragraph. I have 12 years of new comic sales data. Now, he follows it up, but I look at the last issue when ordering comics. There is no pattern to the free fall. If this doesn't distribute, it should. I'm a single voice, but I'm not alone in my concerns. So he talks about, like, even though he has sales data, he doesn't know what's going on, because he'll just look at the very last issue that sold, and he bases it on that. But when he brought up, I have 12 years of sales data, this is what caught my eye. The fact that it's the last paragraph, and potentially the most powerful thing out of all of it. We all know that big data is the driving force behind a lot of companies, and what I'm suggesting is there needs to be a database that is created. Now, bear with me on this, because this might get a little numbery, but I'll try and keep it down because I want to keep it simple for myself. If there is a database for retailers, comic book, brick and mortar, mom and pop shops, that is super easy for them to go in to input the numbers of what they've ordered, what they've received, and what they sold. Very, very simple. This will eliminate or verify the overstocking and the overshipping, because we've all heard the stories of, hey, I've only ordered X amount of these, why did I get 50 issues of this Iceman comic? And the shipping cost, that goes directly onto the retailer. Now, if they want to return it, again, that's on the retailer. So it's a double hit if it happens, and they're just left to have literally stuff that's not selling that got overshipped to them. And why did it get overshipped? Is because of stuff like this. They want to pad the numbers. This is Comic-Con. If you don't know what this is month-by-month sales, and this is a bit of an illusion. These aren't sales sold by comic book shops. These are sales and items sold to the comic book shops, not by them. So this is just what gets to the comic book shops. Nobody knows what sells, and that is vital for the comic book industry. People need to know what's actually selling, and it needs to be posted somewhere. That's why I'm suggesting that a database needs to be created. Keep it simple, keep it free. That way you need to be a comic book, local comic book shop to log in, verified that you are indeed a comic book shop. And I'm not suggesting that they go back into their backlogs and go through all their old stuff and upload all that data. I'm not suggesting that at all. What I'm suggesting is as soon as the database gets built, you start from there and you go forward. It's all new data. You don't even have to go into the backlog. You don't have to do any of that. But since Phil here said he has 12 years of new comic sales data, he has that, which means he could put that in the database. How many other comic book shops out there have this? You know that they have the receipts. But that's a pain in the ass to put in, and I'm not suggesting that. If you make it the database super easy from day one, and if they can get it as part of when they receive their order, it's just something else that they can do at that exact same time, make it painless, and then that way everyone will be able to see what's selling, what's not, what stays, what got overshipped, is there overshipping. A lot of this stuff will completely be brought to light, and it's very, very simple. Unfortunately, I looked into it. I'm not a database kind of guy. I have no idea how to do it, but I know that there's people out there that enjoy this stuff, and maybe somebody can take this on as a pet project, because if this is out there, this becomes a tool that absolutely everybody can point at as definitive evidence of the database of what's selling and what's not. If you have it so you can have a 3-month period where, book comes in, it's on the shelf, it doesn't sell, and then after 3 months, like that book is completely dead. Even though Phil says that after the shelf life, it has no value, there's always those stragglers, 1 or 2 that come in, but after 3 months, the item it's a brick. You might as well just toss it in the fire. Which is another way to increase sales. Limited products, But this is my idea. Somebody create a database. That way comic book shops have a way to actually show what's selling and what's not. That way you can present this monthly, bi-monthly, 3 months, have it updated, and this way journalists have a place to go to be like actually see what's selling as opposed to Comic-Con. Comic-Con is great for what's going out, but again, it's not real sales data. This is also a place where executives, those number crunchers who love nothing but numbers, can actually go and be like, oh, what's selling on the ground level? What's actually moving? They only have Comic-Con to look at and their own sales, which aren't, and realistically, once it's out of their pocket, and it's shipped out, they kind of don't care because it's sold. As soon as it hits the comic book shop, it's sold to them, and there's no returns, there's no nothing. And it's the poor, unfortunate comic book shops that have to take the brunt of this. And they pretty much have to be wizards to figure out what's selling and what's not. That's where this database can come in and help everyone out, including the publishers and the distributors and the journalists and themselves. So that's my suggestion. Somebody needs to create this database and push it forward. And I think it's a tool. I think it could be a very, very handy tool for comic book, everybody in the comic book scene, publishers. That's pretty much it. Hopefully somebody does it. It ain't gonna be me. I just want to put this out there. But now we're gonna go into the indie shoutout. We got the indie comic shoutout going right now for Chango, The Broken Veil, Act 1. This is by Cesar El Guapo Feliciano. And he's got 47 days left on this. And he's at 505 right now. He's 9% of his funding goal, so if anybody can go over there and help contribute to this. Really cool comic, really cool concept. He's crafting I'll just give you a little quick overview. Crafting a story rife with metaphorical demons that we keep with us, brought to life. A young man sees all the sins we keep as tangible creatures in misery and misfortune. So, looks like a very otherworldly comic book. But let's go scroll through it here quickly. And very, very cool artwork. Yeah, Caesar does great work, super fast, super good, awesome dude. Had the opportunity to hang out with him on a couple streams, great guy. But definitely go check out his project on Indiegogo. A link to this will be in the description down below, as well as his social media, so you can get a hold of him. And that is Chango, the Broken Veil, Act 1 by Caesar El Guapo Feliciano. Hopefully I'm saying his last name right, probably butchering it. But that's it, and I'll be talking with you guys soon with a new subject. Alright, have a good one. If you enjoyed the content of this video, please feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thanks!